All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is my friend Michelle Schwartz. Michelle is the Director of Justice Programs at the Alliance for Justice, which you can find at afj.org. You can also follow her on Twitter at SchwartzAFJ. Michelle, thank you so much for being on the show again.
It's great to be back, Matt.
All right, so Michelle, the Alliance for Justice actually produced a new short film on the topic of forced arbitration. It's called Lost in the Fine Print. Before we get into the film itself, if people aren't aware, tell us what exactly is forced arbitration?
Forced arbitration is so every day people are going online, signing up for Netflix, getting a new credit card, getting a new cell phone, and you're doing all these click-through contracts. Well, buried in the fine print of those click-through contracts is a clause that says if something goes awry, if something goes wrong, if they take money for you, if they violate your privacy rights, you don't get to go to court. Instead, you have to go to a private arbitrator. This is somebody who's picked by the company, and you can't appeal their decision. And so what they do stands, and the vast majority of the time, those arbitrators rule for the company over the consumer.
Amazing. And again, it's something that it's like, if you look at, it's pretty much if you do anything at all online, you've signed one of these contracts through your click-throughs. I mean, it's like the list of companies that do this is pretty vast. And you guys actually, with the film, you actually have a petition thing, but like the list of the companies, it's Amazon, AOL, Dropbox, eBay, Groupon, Hulu, Instagram, Microsoft, Netflix, PayPal, I don't know what that emblem is, Spotify, StubHub, then any cell phone company, American Express, Chase, Citibank. The list just goes on and on and on that you have by participating in any of these things online, or even just even not even online necessarily. It could just be if you have a credit card. At one point in the fine print, they sent you that, or later on they sent you a tiny letter that's somewhere in the fine print that they changed this type of rule. It's really just mind blowing how many companies are using this. In the film that you guys did, which is really, really well done. It's a short film about 20 minutes long. It's called Lost in the Fine Print. You actually look into the lives of three people who have been really, really hurt by forced arbitration and have had it come back to bite them. I'd like to talk about each of them. Let's start out by talking about one of the women in the film. Her name is Nicole Mitchell. Tell us about Nicole and what actually happened with her.
Nicole is a meteorologist, and she's a hurricane hunter in the Air Force Reserve. And Nicole worked her way up in the world of broadcasting. She made her way to working at the Weather Channel. She was on the main show and really a star of that main show. And then new management came in, and they were unhappy that Nicole was taking time off for her Air Force Reserve duty, which is really outrageous because, this is someone, she flies into hurricanes. Just imagine that. She flies into hurricanes. Hurricanes are the top-rated. When a hurricane hits, that's when the Weather Channel gets its top ratings. And they had somebody who could go, she literally fly into Katrina, come back to work on Monday and talk about that on the Weather Channel. And yet suddenly they're upset that she is taking time for reserve duty where she's doing this hurricane hunting. And so one thing leads to another, and ultimately she loses her job as a result of that. Well, there's a federal law that says you can't do that. And the uniform services,
you can't fire an employee because if they're serving in the armed forces, they can't lose their job by being in the National Guard or the Army Reserve. You're not allowed. Companies are not allowed to fire you over that reason. Correct?
Exactly. There's a federal law protecting service members from that kind of discrimination, and that's what it is. It's discriminating against people because they're members of the armed services, which kind of goes against everything that our country stands for. And so these people, so there's a law to protect against that. But when Nicole tried to stand up for her rights under that law, instead of being able to go to court, she had to go into arbitration and never even got to meet the arbitrator who reached a decision that she can never appeal.
Unbelievable. It's just so again. So this is a person who worked at the Weather Channel who lost her job going to serve her country, and also one which is also just unpatriotic and horrible in every way, shape, or form. But again, it was actually something tied in with the weather. She was going into hurricanes. She was actually going into something that helped. Stupidly, that shouldn't actually matter. But they ended up firing her, and then so she should be able to go and sue, but because of her ridiculous employment contract, which I think was it NBC that bought the Weather Channel, I think that took over for it.
Exactly.
They added this into the contract, and so she's actually not able to get any recourse. It just goes to this secret court that's not even a court. It's a secret arbitrator hired by NBC, paid by NBC, that says, you know what, NBC's A-OK on this. They didn't do anything wrong, even though they clearly violated federal law. She's just fresh out of luck.
In this case, it really makes you think about the other federal laws that are at risk. So you have a federal law that protects service members against employment discrimination. Well, there are all kinds of other laws that protect people against discrimination. You have the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, which was this landmark law and the first law that President Obama signed into law and was very celebrated, but yet if suddenly a violation of that law, instead of being able to go into court, you're going into arbitration, well, you could be very much out of luck. Laws that protect against, racial discrimination at work, sex discrimination at work, age discrimination, discrimination against people with disabilities, all of these federal laws are at risk because of forced arbitration.